sessions of View of the Light. I'm burning some sage, and it's especially important today because we are talking about plant medicines. It's so cool. And so we have Kathryn Patterson, who knows about the plant magic and the things that you do. And we were having such a great conversation even beforehand. I could listen to these two go on all day long. So come on in, everyone. Go to YouTube and put a like on that, and share it out with your friends. And on Facebook, share it out. And we go through the comments and to those who share it out, and we look for our winners. And we will announce a new winner today at the end of the show. But in the meantime, another neat thing about Kathryn is that she's actually met Rhonda physical in the person. And so this is so cool. Yeah, they live like, would you say 15 clicks or something apart from each other. So it's like, wow, this is so cool. Like neighbors practically. So Rhonda, tell us about your guest.
Hey, I'm going to put Kathryn on big so you can see her smiling face. Now, I did meet Kathryn. She came to me for Reiki in person. And before I usually clients, I kind of tune into them. And I thought, I'm going to put on some Hildegard von Bingen music. And Hildegard von Bingen was a herbalist way back in the Germany in like way long ago. She's Saint Hildegard. And she wrote these herbology books. She was one of the first that actually started putting down plant medicines. So we're talking along and I'm saying, oh, so this music, it's Hildegard. She goes, oh, Hildegard. I said she was a herbalist. And she says, I'm a herbalist. And I went, ooh. So that was kind of kismet right there. So Nancy says, hi, Nancy. And first of all, I want to wish all our Canadian friends, that's me included, a happy Canada Day, long weekend. We Canadians love our long weekend. And I don't want to forget our American friends down south who have their birthday on the 4th of July. So some of you guys get a extra long weekend. And if not, like, I hope you have a great birthday nation celebration. So, yeah, thanks, Nancy. Happy Canada Day. So Kathryn has been helping me learn about plants. I've always had this really big interest in plants, and meeting Kathryn was not a coincidence. I can tell you that much. And she is just like, got so much knowledge, and I've been trying to get her on for a couple of years now, but she's been a little shy, but she's just moving out of that. She's a clinical herbalist. So Kathryn, welcome to our show, Spirit Sessions of View of the Light. Would you please tell us a little bit about yourself and what a clinical herbologist is? Now I've got it all screwed up with my French. Go ahead. Welcome, Kathryn.
Everybody. So a clinical herbalist is somebody that, yes, is trained in plant knowledge, but we also we actually run clinics during our training to learn with people and learn how to develop formulas to assist people. So I did attend a 3-year clinical apprenticeship. So it was quite intensive, and during which I learned about the plants, the body, how to apply the plants, how to work with them, how to commune with them. And that's basically what a clinical herbalist is. Like, it's they have the there's kitchen herbalists. They're more like herbalists that like to make things out of their kitchen. Like, they like making the salves and whatnot. There's family herbalists. They basically have enough knowledge to treat their family. And then there's a clinical herbalist. It's just a little bit more involved, but not any less. Like, all herbalists have, anybody that works with the plants, they have knowledge, so they just have a different way of delivering it.
Do you think you're tapping into your ancient witchy self? Like, I find that when I've worked with plants, that I'm tapping into my, like, it's almost like in our blood that we want to work with plants. So it's almost like tapping into our old selves or something.
Yeah, I believe that. I know on my mother's side, they were, they had delivered babies back in the day.
Oh, neat.
So they were midwives. But somewhere like in the recent time, like that stopped, right? And a lot of the midwives were herbalists, right? Back in the day.
Wise women.
Yeah. And, the village people would come to them for help and whatnot. But at some point in recent family history, that link was kind of dropped off, but I picked it up again, and I'm hoping that somebody, my nieces or nephews will take it up. I can pass on my knowledge, so the link isn't broken again. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Do you think it's especially? I don't know if COVID kind of highlighted this. There seems to be a new surge in foraging and going back to the land to find their medicines. Like it seems to be like more than a hobby since COVID cut us off, and we realized our supply chain is only as good as the weakest link.
Yeah.
And
I think there was a lot of that too, Rhonda, but I also think a lot of people, because they couldn't go anywhere, they went to the woods, they went to the fields, they went out on hikes. And I think there was a reminding as well, just how connected we are to nature. And I think that's a part of why people are so interested in foraging again. They've just been reminded, COVID did remind them just how connected to nature we are and to each other, to be quite frank. Like, wow, like, I think people are really realizing just how interconnected we are to everything. Yeah.
It's now something you taught me, which I thought was fascinating, is plants give off a different energy, and you can feel the energy of the plants.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I remember during my training, we had we were making flower essences, and flower essences are working with the plant spirit. Okay. So we were all given a plant to sit with, and then we had to rotate to each plant. So like I think we did a group of 10. There was 10 of us in the group, and we paired up, and there's about 5 plants that we had to sit with, and we had to meditate with them and just sit with them and write down what came to our minds. So mine was red clover. So my partner and I wrote down like what information we were getting, and then we come back to the circle, and lo and behold, a lot of people got the same kind of messages from that plant.
Wow.
So that brought it home to me. Yes, there is some plant intelligence, right? And they can communicate, and just so that red clover is sort of a flower essence. It's great for somebody that has a lot on their plate, and they have 2 months of just having to plow through life and just get through it. If that's what red clover can help out with, it's almost like your grandmother, like a kind grandmother saying, "Oh, it's too bad you have to do this, but get your big girl panties on." That's basically what red clover is to me. So I've used it,
and it's so available, right?
It is so available. Like it grows wild out in the field. You just have to be careful where you're foraging and make sure that they're not spraying, because if they're spraying, don't pick the medicine. Don't pick the medicine. It just Mm-hmm.
I guess that's an important part. I mean, you can pick them in places where they don't spray, and you probably want to wash them anyways, just in case. Sometimes I don't bother because I don't care, because I know where I'm picking. But it's important, that part. So red clover, you can just go and pick it put boiling water over and make a tea out of it? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, so if you're making a tea, you can have red clover, either make a tea out of it dried or fresh. If you're making it out of fresh, I normally kind of double up the blooms, right? If it's dried, the medicine is a little bit more concentrated, so you don't have to use as much, right? So we live up in Canada in a climate, well, this stuff doesn't grow in the winter. So, this time of year, I'm out foraging and picking and drying some of my medicines that I can use with my clients over the winter months. But during that time, I'm making teas for myself, out of fresh plant. It's always preferable to use fresh plant, but it just, some of us are just not living in a climate that we can do that, right?
Nancy was asking, is there a difference between white clover and red clover? And I think there is.
There is. I'm more familiar with the red clover. I think it has more medicinal properties. Yeah.
I know that red clover is easier for horses to eat than white clover. So anyways, but you can find white clover everywhere. Red clover, you have to kind of go into the pollard fields and stuff.
Red clover is a great lymphatic. I use it for lymphatic issues. It's great for women. That's what I mainly use it for. Yeah.
Balancing hormones, is that?
Yeah, it has some of that kind of ability as well. There's isoflavones in it. I know some people are a little bit concerned about the breast health and a red clover, but I don't necessarily adhere to that because it's been around for a very long time. People have used it for a very long time, and I don't personally, I'm comfortable with using it. I don't believe that it's going to increase my chances of breast cancer or anything like that. Right?
So that's a commonly found one. What other plants commonly, I know you kind of prepared some that we could grow in pots around our place. I know mint is one of them, I think, or lemon balm. They're both ones we can just container garden, right? No matter where you live, like even in Canada, they grow well here.
Mint, like peppermint grows wild, right? As well. But if you were to plant it, be careful where you plant it because it spreads like wildfire and it can take over a garden. So what I would recommend somebody, if they do have a little piece of land, just to kind of make an enclosure, like a little, I don't know, little raised bed and plant it in there. It would just be easier to control. But peppermint is a wonderful plant. It can relieve nausea. It stimulates the appetite. Like if you have the tea, like I have a little bit of peppermint in my tea right now. I can feel the peristalsis in my gut a little bit. It's helping me move things along.
Wow.
So like it's a carminative. That's what we call a carminative. It stimulates the appetite. Of course, if you take a leaf, it freshens your breath, right? Like if you're on the go and you're heading out and you have a little patch, you can just pop one in your mouth and away you go. But a lot of people don't really realize, people go to peppermint for digestion issues. Everybody pretty much knows about that, but it also can relieve headache, pain.
The essential oils on you.
Yeah, and neuralgia. So that's like a foot pain because of diabetes or maybe some cancer treatment, the ends of your nerves are kind of, not doing well. Like you can actually use peppermint oil on the bottom of your feet. And some people it really helps them out.
Oh.
So the tea can be used for, you can bake a strong tea. Let's say you get a sunburn out in the community, and like when you're outside and whatnot, you can get like, even if you're on traveling, you can get say, I'd like a peppermint tea. Like, you can go out and like order it, and you can actually put it on your skin or somebody's skin, and it will relieve the sunburn. Or if there's hives or something, right?
Yeah.
You don't necessarily have to, it's peppermint's pretty readily available, right? So
could you use a bath with it, like when you really got the itchies?
Pardon me, Teresa?
Can you use it like in a bath, like put a certain amount of tea in the bath and then really?
Yeah, I would just put it in a piece of muslin so it doesn't get all over the place.
Or brew it
have a
before
mess
the
to
water.
clean up. So I just put it in a piece of muslin or if you don't have that, I just put it in an old pillowcase or something like that.
Neat. Yeah.
And just throw it in.
The tea really strong and just throw it in your bath too.
You could put a little bit of chamomile in with that too, if you had that. Everybody has a tea bag of chamomile somewhere, and if they're growing it, great, it's even better. But you could throw that in with the peppermint, if you have some hives going on. Some people can't use the oatmeal. Like some people will use oatmeal if they have hives, like they'll bathe in some oatmeal stuff, but some people, that makes it worse. So you can try peppermint and chamomile. Yeah.
Nice. Nancy was asking something that we were talking about earlier before you got on the show. She says, is there any suggestions to help with the smoke coming down from the wildfire and for lung clearing and strength?
Well, I can think of two off the top of my head, plantain and mullein. So plantain is like the herb of healing as far as I'm concerned. And it's just this little plant that likes to grow where there's compacted soil, like where people walk on paths.
Don't they call it the white man's footprint? The native people, the Aboriginals?
Yeah. They do. Yeah, they do. Yeah. Yeah, because it wasn't, Europeans brought it over to North America, and it's just all over the place now. So plantain works head to toe. So for the lungs, it's an antispasmodic. So like if you're coughing because of the smoke, it will help out with that. It's demulcent as well. So it will soothe your airways. And if there's phlegm that starts, because of the air smoke, it can help dry it up. See, what happens with plantain, it has two properties that are kind of opposite to each other. And it's so intelligent. It knows what the body needs. So it's astringent, so it can tighten up things, or oh my God. It's
emulsify?
Yeah, it doesn't emulsify, which it kind of soothes, right? So it just knows what your body needs. And
so you can just take the leaves, like pick them in a nice place, wash them, and then chop them up and put them in a tea.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Simple.
So, and it works on the GI system. You can put it as a food in a salad if you wanted. There's just so much. It helps out with sinus. Like you can do a strong tea and just kind of put a little bit over your sinus. Oh. And you can also have the tea, and it will just do its work, right? The other one to help out with the smoke is mullein. And again, I think everybody knows what mullein looks like. It's like, it can be as tall as me, like I'm 6 foot. It's leaves. This is what we use for the lungs, is the leaves. So
so the leaves are that light sage green, and they're soft and furry, like a lamb's ear, right?
Yeah. And you just it has a lot of it helps with bronchial congestion, basically. And it works specifically on the cilia, like our respiratory system has these little hairs. And the little hairs are in there just to move the mucus up and out of the lung, right? So the mullein acts, it stimulates those little hairs to just start moving the mucus out. And it's also antibacterial and antimicrobial as well. So if you're getting a lot of smoke and you think, you might be getting a little bit of an infection, it will help clear that out. If you do think you are absolutely going to get an infection because of the smoke, you can also put a little bit of thyme in your tea as well. That's heavily antimicrobial.
I heard that they were doing a study in Dartmouth in Nova Scotia at Dartmouth University about mullein and how it could help with COVID at the time, because everybody was having research grants, and they were studying the mullein plant. So the mullein plant, we know, has those hairy leaves. So if we make a tea out of that, we have to be careful, right? Those little hairs, or drying it, smoking it. So there's two ways.
I'm not a big proponent of smoking the
Anything?
herbs because I just think the benefits don't outweigh the harm. Personally, that's my personal view as a clinician. So, but with mullein, when you make the tea, yes, there's little hairs on it, and if you do touch it, a lot of people say it's nature's toilet. It's a good, like if you're out in the bush, you see a mullein and you need a piece of toilet paper, you can use it. I'd be a little bit wary about that because it can be irritating, right?
Yeah.
Those little hairs can come off. Right?
Little hairs, right? So, word to the wise there. But with the hairs, with the tea, so you cut the leaf up, and you can make the tea fresh. But when you pour the tea, what I would do, yes, the hot water is going to kind of diminish the hair, like the irritation of the hairs a little bit, but not all. So what I would do when I sieve it out, I would absolutely put it through some mullein or some piece of cloth to take the remnants of the hairs out. Before
cheesecloth or something like that, very fine.
Yeah.
A piece of paper towel or
That's
something.
what I would do. Yeah. So, or a piece of, you could use your coffee filter or something like that.
Oh, that's a good idea. Coffee filter.
Might be a little bit easier. So that's what I would do, just to be extra cautious, right? But when it's dried, you don't have to really necessarily worry about it as much, but I still do it. Because I don't want to be coughing a lot, right? The idea is, move things along, but I don't want to be coughing all over the place, right? The one thing about the mullein plant I find really interesting, it's multi-use. So you can use the flowers, the leaves, and the root. So the flowers, you can pick those and put them in a little bit of olive oil. And they have antimicrobial properties, and they're also anodynes. Anodynes it's like a pain relief, kind of dulls the pain. So that's what you do. You just pick the little flowers and you can put them in the olive oil. I'd let it sit for about 4 weeks, and then you can use the oil. And you can even warm the oil up a little bit if you have an earache, and to put it in, and it will help out. It's safe enough to use with children. The only thing I wouldn't use it with is swimmer's ear, when there's a lot of, you think there's some bacteria growing in there, and you know what I mean by swimmer's ear. I wouldn't use it for that. Or if you think there's an eardrum that's perforated, absolutely not. Go to the doctor. But if there's a lot of like what I call catarrh, like You can see a little bit of mucus and stuff like that. It will dry it up. So
yeah. I used it on my kids' ears for years. Because,
it's really helpful. And even warming it up helps. I even I used to have a lot of ear problems. I still do, but I find I really like those drops, and I personally don't make them myself anymore. I just go to St. Anne's and just get their
St. Francis or St. Anne?
St. Francis, sorry.
St. Francis ear oil here. St. Francis ear oil. Here's a big plug for you. It saved my son's hearing when he was little, and I swear to God, buy it every day. So I put it even in my dog's ears.
Amazing.
So,
it's lovely. It's lovely, and I have it up in my cupboard too. So
great.
So, and the root of mullein. Surprisingly enough, I have a story about this one. And so I was out taking a walk, and I was just I was having a little bit of problems with well, let's just say I was having trouble with some bladder stuff, and I'm like, what can I take for this? Like, this is driving me crazy. I have to go to the bathroom all the time, and I was just going nuts. And then all of a sudden, I'm looking at a mullein plant, and then I stepped down into a divot in the ground, and of course I had a bladder issue. But then I'm like, okay, so it's mullein. Mullein was speaking to me in a very harsh way, by the way. But sometimes plants have to do that with me to get through my noggin. But I went back to my books and I looked if there was, anything to do with mullein and bladder issues and, incontinence and stuff like that. And there was one of the herbalists that I follow. He said the roots are very good for stress incontinence.
Wow.
So
I just thought there's an example of planting.
And this is growing free on the roadsides and in fields and any disturbed, forgotten ground. And like you said to me right before COVID, I remember this, we were out walking in my field and there was like mullein everywhere in my pasture. Mm-hmm. And you said, your herbalist said, it's going to be a bad year for coughing because the mullein plant has grown everywhere.
Yeah.
So it's like Mother Earth gives her medicine. That just makes my stick. And that was right before COVID.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. That's amazing.
That's what I do every year. I take a look at what's growing out in my property. So when we first bought this place, like we have about 73 acres here of woodland and mainly woodland, but the backyard was just littered with dandelion. Littered. So I was like, I immediately knew the people that owned it previous to me, like they had liver issues.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
They had liver issues. So this year I looked out, there's a lot of lymphatic plants growing on my land.
Oh.
And so that tells me a lot of people are going to have a lot of water issues, like anything to do with water in their body,
Inflammation? Is that kind of like
inflammation? They might have some immune problems because the lymph system, remember, houses the immune system as well, right?
All the after effects of
Yeah. So that's given me kind of a hint of what could possibly be coming down the pipes for me to help support this year, like over the winter and whatnot.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So, and dandelion. Let's talk a little bit about dandelion because that is like God's gift everywhere, and people are always trying to eradicate it, but they don't know what a treasure they have there.
I know. I was one of those people before I got into herbs. I was like, I saw it. I used to live in Kingston, and they'd show up on my lawn, and I just went right out there and eradicated it as quick as anything. Now I don't have them in my front lawn or my backyard that much. Like it's so different from when we bought the place now, right? So I have to go hunt for them. And dandelions, wonderful. They work on the kidney. They work on the liver. They help out with the skin, your teeth, your blood pressure. The flowers are food, right? For us, for bees. Like you can put them in your salad. The roots. The roots are more to do with the liver. Okay, it's liver medicine. So it tones and cleans the liver, like it makes the liver more efficient. You know, it's a really good thing to take in the spring when we're just coming out of winter and we've been kind of stagnant and, you know, not moving around because who likes the cold, right? So it's something that you could take to get things moving. You got to remember that the liver, I always say to people, the liver is like the post office. Everything runs through it, right? So if it's not working right, then you know you could have issues somewhere else in your body, right? So the leaves, they work specifically kind of on the kidney. They're a diuretic, okay? So they help eliminate waste in the body through the urine. So, and in that way, it relieves blood pressure, right? So less work for the heart because the blood isn't as thick and full of gunk. Now with the diuretic, now it's a different, there's a difference between a plant diuretic and one that is prescribed to you. A plant like dandelion has a lot of potassium. It does not deplete potassium. It does not deplete B12, magnesium, all these minerals that you need for good heart health. Whereas, you know, prescribed diuretics, you really have to be careful about that, right? Because they can. What else? So
you can make honey out of the flower. Well, you can make honey and wine out of the flowers.
Oh yes, I haven't done that yet. I'd love to.
I made dandelion honey for the first time this year. It's a lot of work, but man, it was tasty.
Yeah, I just you hear tell of that, and it'd be kind of an interesting. I've made mead before, so but it was out of a more pumpkin, and it was good. But I've never made dandelion wine yet.
I do pick the greens when they're first thing in the spring, when they're first coming up, and I pick them and I put them in my freezer, and then I make smoothies out of them. I have picked them and put them in my salads, but you got to get them before they flower because then they get a little less, they're less bitter. I mean, like that's first thing in the spring. That's like April when they're just starting to come out.
Well, maybe next year, Rhonda, we should make up some dandelion wine and then come back on the show and have a little drink and have
my mom's doctor used to give her a glass of dandelion wine. I just don't even know how to make wine, but that would be good. But I mean, I'm all about the dandelion. I've always loved dandelion. It's always been like that's my if there was a plant. There was a spirit animal plant, it would be dandelion for me.
Yeah. It's such a useful plant. Like they're just it and plantain. Like it's just amazing. Like people call them weeds. It's important medicine. Like I will say this is one thing I just learned not too long ago. The dandelion leaves, they actually will help restore the enamel on your teeth.
Oh.
Which is interesting. I'm going to check.
How do you make a tea out of them and then just rinse it?
Chew it. Now, they're bitter, right? It's a bitter herb. So you have to plow through that.
Swallow?
Yeah.
Spit? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So just chew.
Yeah. So anything bitter, when you taste an herb, anything bitter, you can pretty much bank on that it's working on the digestion and the liver.
Yeah, that's a good roll of. I know my dog loves them. She eats the little. I guess those little when the buds go back into seeds, you can put them and make
capers, like a caper jam or something. I've
Yes.
seen that on Pinterest. I thought that's just really
If you
interesting.
go to YouTube, you can get all sorts of recipes, and you can watch a lot of them and sort of mix and match and patch them into what you want to do, right? That's like, but it's just the awareness of all these things growing in our front yard in the plantain. What about I forgot to ask you about the plantain seeds. Is there anything you can do with the plantain seeds? You know,
Well, plantain seeds, they're like a cousin of like the psyllium husk, right? So you can just use the seed and just put it in
smoothie?
your salads, your soups. Like it just gives you extra fiber. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I don't have to have my husband stop at Food Basics. We're just going to harvest the front yard this week. Okay. So what about other plants like lemon balm's easy to grow too in your garden. It's like mint. You have to make sure you have it corralled or it takes
It's
over.
not as bad. It doesn't take off as much as mint, but it can. The lemon balm that I have kind of is staying in the same area to where I planted it. So it's normally the first plant that everybody grows. It's easy to grow. It's beautiful to watch. The bees love it. Like when I go out to harvest, like I'm very careful because I don't want to take all of it because I want to leave some food for the bees, right? It is part of the mint family, and when you're dealing with the mint family, if you're out foraging and stuff like that, if you look at the stem, it's always square.
Oh, yeah.
Mint family. So it would give you an idea. Yeah, this could be a mint family plant. Okay. So lemon balm it's called Melissa officinalis. Now, that's the Latin name. It's a binomial nomenclature that was developed a couple of 100 years ago. And that whenever you see officinalis, that tells you that was an official medicine back in the day. Like you're talking the 1800s. Back then, the doctors had to be botanists. A lot of the medicine came from the plant, right? So it's kind of interesting whenever you see officinalis, you just know there's a lot of history to it. So when you're reading things about it, this is not just newfangled information. There's a lot of history. Okay.
You mean we didn't just develop it in like 3 months and then put it out and make everybody have it? Okay. Just thought I'd ask.
Yeah. So it looks like mint. So when you're looking at it, you're like, is this mint or is this lemon balm? You're going to tell by the taste. Tasting the leaf, and if you even rub the leaf, if you don't want to taste something right away, if you just rub the leaf and smell your fingers, there's lemon. You'll smell lemon. Okay. It is a carminative. We can use it for the digestion. It's an antispasmodic. So if you're really cramping and stuff like that, like have some lemon balm, right? It's also a nervine. So if you're anxious, you're struggling with melancholy, even like heart palpitations, you're that anxious, have some lemon balm. You know, you might, if you're having, a little bit of heart palpitations because you're nervous, you might want to throw in some hawthorn or linden flower in with the tea. It would make a wonderful tea. Put some rose hips in as well. And that would just soothe your nerves and soothe your heart. And yeah, it's a wonderful plant, just a wonderful plant. I can't say, I use a lot of it in my teas that I make for people that are suffering from anxiety and depression and melancholy and stuff like that. Yeah.
Wow.
This lady, empty
really
full.
nice.
Do you have any insight on sticky chickweed? My dog found it in the park and eats it daily. The growths on his belly are almost gone. Amazing, but it's dying off. And I'm wondering if sticky chickweed, because I don't know that name. Do you?
I don't know that name,
It's,
but I know.
it's from. I think it might be part of the. Just looking at it, if I just googled it while you were talking. I think it might be like cleavers. It
Mhm.
looks a bit like cleavers. So
I don't use chickweed that much, so I don't want to comment beyond, like, that's amazing that that's happening. I'm going to look it up a little bit more. But I know it's a demulcent, but it sounds like I better be looking at chickweed quite a bit, because I know violet is very good at taking away bumps and
for purple
whatnot.
violet, just a little
Yeah.
kind. Oh, it grows in our yard.
But like you can only harvest it at a certain time of the year, whereas chickweed, it's like from spring to fall type thing. So that's an interesting. Thank you for that comment, because that's gonna send me down a rabbit hole.
Yeah. I mean, I chickweed that. Oh yeah, I see what it looks like. I think it kind of grows here, but like different plants grow in different areas. And I mean, we brought a lot of plants over from our ancestors brought a lot of plants over from Europe to here in North America. And like the dandelion wasn't native till we got here. The plantain wasn't native. We brought them over in for our gardens. We brought them in our belongings, and now they're everywhere. I mean, I even think stinging nettle wasn't native here at one time. I think we brought that over. That's why you find it around old farms, right? Because the gardens.
Yeah. One plant that was here was yarrow.
Yarrow.
Yeah. Yarrow's a very ancient plant, like ancient.
Everywhere, isn't it? Pretty much.
Yeah. So we use that for stomach cramps, colds and flu. Basically with the stomach cramps, yarrow relaxes the smooth muscle. So, the stomach is smooth muscle. Your uterus is a smooth muscle. So if you have period cramps, it could help out with that. It's good at stopping bleeding, both internally and externally.
So do you use the flowers or the leaves, or
I use the leaf. Like I dry. You can use both, but you'll find that when you dry it, you have to dry it to use it as a styptic, which stops bleeding externally. You find that it's very, very hard to
powder
the flower. So I just use the leaf. It's very, 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 very easy. So I have a little jar of it in the kitchen. I have a little jar of it out in my partner's workshop. If for cuts, you just put some on and it just stops it right away.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
They used to keep it in battle, I guess, too.
Yeah. And it's also a diaphoretic, which is important if you have a fever. Diaphoretic, what happens in the body is your pores open, right? So it makes you sweat the heat out. Like you want to encourage a fever, like in a sense, because your body's trying to get rid of something, right? That shouldn't be there.
Yes.
But if your fever gets high enough, it can be debilitating, right? So you can use yarrow just to kind of tone it down. I would put a little bit of elderflower. It has the same kind of property. I put that in there, and it can bring down the fever a little bit, right? So your body can just continue to work on getting rid of whatever it's trying to get rid of. So it's kind of an interesting plant. It can, like it helps with stomach cramps, it lowers fever, it stops bleeding, and it's a bitter. It's a bitter. Like if you taste the plant,
it smells bitter too. It has a weird smell.
It does have a weird, and some people can take it, some people can't. I like the smell of it. Like when I brush by it reminds me of the summer times as a kid. I think it brings back a memory for me. So
I know it's very good to plant around your apple trees because it discourages pests.
Really? I did not know that.
Wow. The things you learn on TikTok, honest to God. It's like that's about my span of attention, but that I learned from an organic farmer is planting yarrow around the base of plants to discourage pests. But
and I've also heard planting comfrey around your apple trees and stuff like that. That helps out with
That's
production and whatnot.
well, yeah, because they've got such a long taproot that they pull the minerals to the top,
Yeah.
and you can make by squishing up their leaves and putting them in water, you can make that fertilizer that you just dump out afterwards. But
Yeah.
let's talk a bit about comfrey, because you taught me a lot about comfrey, and I was just making comfrey pucks up today. I grabbed my comfrey that I took out of the freezer, and I went, oh, I'll just throw that in my greens. And I went, oh no, that's comfrey. I better not throw that into my greens. Yeah.
The only thing with comfrey, if you're going to use it internally, like I would absolutely work with an herbalist when you're doing
because
that.
it's very it's one of those dangerous ones, right? It's gotta be very careful with it.
Yeah, it has some alkaloids in it that can be damaging to the liver. It can help out with certain things, but it's a short-lived use for internally, okay? But definitely work with a clinician. Don't go out and do it yourself, okay? But externally, you can work with this plant by yourself. It is wonderful for bruising. If you sprained yourself, I make these patties out of the leaves. All I do is just whir it up a little bit, put a little bit of water in there, and I make patties just like a hamburger. And I freeze them, and I have them over the winter. Just like if you do kind of twist your ankle or hurt your wrist or you bruise up, you can just put the patty on. And what else do I use it? I make a really good rub for knees, and it helps out with soreness of the knees, arthritic type of pains. And it's really, really a nice plant. Yeah. And you don't have to worry about, the alkaloids when you use it externally. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been. I gave all my pucks to my neighbor across the road, sprained her ankle, and she found them quite soothing. But I write on them, comfrey, do not eat, when I put them in the freezer. I just made up some more pucks for her today, and all you do is you just squish them up, put them in the freezer, and then squish them up again.
And it's another plant. If you're going to plant it, make sure you plant it in an area where it's going to stay, because if you try to move it, and the roots will, because the taproot is so deep, like it will break off, but another plant will come up, like it will just start getting a little bit crazy in your yard. So just make sure wherever you put it, it's gonna stay. Like I have mine in a big black kettle out back. I have it kind of contained type things. So, and
it has pretty purple flowers on it.
It does, and the bees absolutely love that plant. They'll be all over the flowers, which is it's kind of nice to plant things that help out the bees as well, right? Again, that connection is there. Like
so, did they bring that plant medicine back into the honey?
Well, I would imagine there's some sort of Honey in itself is, it's a good medicine. Like I know with my teas, some of the teas I make might not be the best tasting, right? Depending on what they're meant for, right? And I always tell my clients to use a little bit of honey, and it always helps out too. Like there's benefits, right? It's good for the immune system, especially if you're using honey from your local area, right? It can help out with allergies as well, like because you're ingesting what's in and building up whatchamacallit, help me out, Rhonda. I'm losing my mind now.
Oh, your tolerance to allergies.
Yeah, your tolerance to what's growing in the area. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So you won't be. It's like getting an allergy shot without the needle, and it tastes really good. So people have been. I don't know if it's naturopathic or regular doctors say if you have really bad allergies, eat the honey from bees in your area. So you can.
Absolutely helps out with that.
It's really good. So what's the next one we were talking about? Like, there's some. I think you had calendula in your pictures there. I know we know chamomile. Most of us know chamomile from Peter Rabbit on up, because Peter Rabbit's mom gave him chamomile tea to fix his tummy.
Yeah. Calendula is an easy to grow plant. And it's cheery. I love looking out in my garden and seeing it there. I use a lot of that. It's a vulnerary. I use it in lotions, like for boo-boos, like it helps heal, scratches and scrapes. I know it's great for babies' diaper rash. You just don't get it with calendula. And I use it a lot in my gut heal teas.
The flower part in the
flower part. Yeah, I don't use the leaf. I just use the flower. Yeah. The medicine, and I don't pull the petals off. The medicine is actually in the
calyx.
The calyx. Yeah. Yeah.
Too much
biology. I might break once it's dried, I might break it up in my tea just so that you don't get a big honking piece of calendula and the rest is you don't get as much as the rest of the stuff. So I do kind of break it up, but the calyx, I keep the calyx for sure. Yeah.
So calendula can heal inside your stomach as well then.
Yeah.
Okay. So if anybody had ulcers or this.
Yeah, it's good for the gut. Absolutely good for the gut. Yeah. It helps out. That and plantain, they're a beautiful combination.
Oh, and that would be a pretty tea too.
And chamomile, I put chamomile in there. It's nice for the digestion.
And peppermint, so it just tastes better.
And that's what I basically use peppermint for, just to kind of, but then again, it has a lot of properties itself. But, and I might put a little bit of meadowsweet in with the tea if somebody's suffering from acid reflux, because meadowsweet, now that's a plant that you really have to just check out,
Google it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't know it by sight.
Yeah. I don't have any of it on my property, so I couldn't even show you guys. But I use it. It works on the stomach specifically, and the lining. And so it doesn't really care if you have high or low acid in your stomach. It just seems to know how to adjust it properly so you don't get the acid reflux. And it's almost immediate. Yeah.
So there are people that sell herbs already dried and ready to go. And I mean, you sell tinctures and salves and stuff, and you kind of do Zoom meetings with people to kind of decide what they need, and you can make up a formulation. But if you can't access a certain herb, you have people that you can go to get from their gardens, and you can buy herbs already identified, so they're safe and they're what they're supposed to be. And then and there are herbs that are safe to use every day, like peppermint and lemon balm, and other ones you need to know from a clinical herbalist what you should take and how much, because like anything, a little bit's like any medicine you take, no matter what it is, a little bit's okay, but too much can be not so great for you, right?
And pretty much all that I've mentioned today, maybe meadowsweet and the what we were talking about, comfrey, those are the ones that I would just do a little bit more research on. But the other ones, you could grow in your garden and go out and forage them tomorrow to make a tea.
And basswood flowers, American basswood flowers, if you can ever catch them, are nice too. The linden flowers.
Linden flower. It's good for the heart, and it's a nice nervine. Yeah. Yeah, and they're safe too. You just have to compete with the bees.
The bees and the horses. And the horses.
Oh, the horses. Yes.
When you try and pick them.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's a lovely, lovely tea. It's honey. It just almost smells like honey when you bring it up to it's an experience. The smell, the taste, and it's a beautiful herb as well. Yeah.
So we
Yeah.
talked mostly about ones, except for comfrey ones we ingest. I mean, we use lavender. Everybody knows about lavender. We all love the smell of lavender.
Oh
Most
yeah.
people do. And you can make a tea out of that. You can put that into your tea as well, the flowers, right?
Yes, I wouldn't be too heavy on the lavender because it has saponins.
Oh,
Saponins are the soapy, like
oh,
whenever you like you'd see on the tea, like if you put too much lavender in, you'd see little bubbles on the top.
oh, that's what Thrill's
And
gum
that's the
tastes like.
saponin. That's the saponin. Yeah.
Oh, is lamb's ear the same as mullein? There's two different things. There's
Yeah,
lamb's
it's
ear.
different. Yeah, it's two different things.
Mullein is called the queen. It's the one that grows like 6 feet tall and has like the corn cob flower on the top. Like,
Yeah.
that's an old mullein stock that I have behind me. And lamb's ears only grow about a foot high. And they grow in your garden, and you can eat them too. But
Yeah.
And in
Lamb's ear,
Spanish, isn't it?
go ahead,
Sorry.
Teresa.
In Spanish, mullein is like Los Lobos or something, like large. I can't remember exactly, but large ears from the wolf. And
oh yeah,
stuff.
because they're really big leaves.
Yeah, because I used to get it in the little Mexican shops in California, and it's like, wow, instead of ordering it expensive, I can get it really cheap right here. So it was cool.
Yeah. And mullein when you buy it, like it's fluffy, right? So you don't need a lot of it. Like don't be buying a big pound of it or anything. You're going to get a big bag and you won't go through it, right? So
No.
there's enough plants around in North America. Like it grows pretty much all over the place in North America.
It's really starting to, some places, in my place, it's starting to bloom now. Other places, it's just coming in.
You'd be able to find something. Just make sure like you're 50 yards back from any roadway, like if they are spraying and stuff like that, right? Like you just don't go on the side of the road and pick the leaves, right?
You never know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, if people have it on their property, they're more than happy for you to come back.
Those people, I do, and I let people come and pull my burdock too for the roots, and that's another one. We could talk all day about this. See how fast it went. So we have a couple of questions. So please tell us about how people can get in touch with you. I know your and you can take, because of the power of Zoom and internet, you can talk to people all over the world and give them suggestions and ship out tinctures and just do a consult. And because she's Canadian, remember Americans, she's 30% off. Just a joke. But Kathryn, tell us where you can, so what does a little quick session look like with you?
With me? Well, the first one is not that quick. You'd have to be prepared to be anywhere from an hour and a half to 2 hours. Like I go
going through naturopath.
Yeah. Like you go through all the body systems and like we go through your issues and I ask a whole bunch of questions like, when does it happen, the what, where, and when type of thing. And then I go through all the body systems. Because what we're looking at, we don't look at the disease itself. We look at the person. We look at where the imbalance is. Right? We're different than that. It's all about energetics, where the imbalance is. Like, yes, we'll listen. Like if somebody says, like I've, like if they name, like I've been diagnosed with this. Yes, that's an important piece of information. But we look at the person per se, not the disease. It's for imbalances. So my initial consult, as a result, is a little bit lengthy, right? So, but after that, like the consults can run anywhere from 30 to 45 minutes for follow-up consults. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Okay, that's really cool. We have a couple of questions. Teresa, do you want to ask? And if you have any questions, Teresa.
We're going to ask those hard questions we were telling you about. And so the first one, even if it's a jingle or song from a show, what is your favorite theme song that keeps you going and brings the magic back to your life?
Well, I was telling the girls before the show that I really like Bewitched, and I do have the little Bewitched, when she do her nose thing on my cell phone. And you'd be surprised how many conversations that started up out in the community with people, when they hear it ding. So, I like that one. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. That's so cool. The next question is, well, while you're working with all these herbs and you're making all these beautiful tinctures, ointments, and teas and stuff, do you ever have any favorite crystals or gemstones?
Boy, I like my crystals. I like my gemstones. I do like labradorite because I do have a tendency to, I need to be grounded a little bit more. Funny enough, I work outside, like with the plants, but during the day I work at a desk job. So
Oh.
I do like my labradorite with me just to ground me and whatnot. Yeah.
Ah, that's beautiful. So pretty, and that's inspirational. The blue flashes and stuff that it has. I love it. The last question is, have you had any extra dimensional contact or seen any spaceships?
Well, when I was in I think it was when I was in my 20s, it was a while ago. I was driving along a really nice drive, like back where I used to live. And it was at night, and I was by myself, and I looked off in the distance, and there was this red light, and it was really, really low to the ground. And I said to myself, there's no way a plane could fly that low without hitting the trees. So, and it was just, and it was larger than you'd expect to see on the bottom of a plane. So, yeah, it was something I couldn't explain. It was definitely, a different experience. Yes. Yes.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
I know if you're living near Rhonda though, that you got to be able to see some now and then. So
yeah, we're doing a CE5 sometime as soon as the mosquitoes get smaller than chicken hawks.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I love that.
They're really large now. So. Well, thank you so much for coming on, and we'll have to have you again, and we'll have some more maybe wintry herb recipes or something later on. I know you don't like, but people, please do get in touch with our email. It is right there. You can message you through your email, right? And it's morgancroftherbs, and you have an email because.
At gmail.com. Yeah.
morgancroftherbs@gmail.com. It's in there. It's not big and fancy, but it's lovely. It's a lovely. Believe me, I've learned so much from Kathryn over the years, and I get exchanges. So I get tea for herbs for letting her forage on my land. So
how neat!
Yeah, we do a lot of forage. Come and pick my weeds, please. Like honestly, yeah. Oh, are you sure? Yes, please. Anyway, it's been great having you on, and I'm so glad you could be with us today. Next week, do we have Ron on next week? Ron Schaefer?
Man. I did not bring the calendar for me to look at.
Okay, I think so. I think Ron's on next week, but
you
have a winner
6th?
too.
Yeah.
You have a winner.
The winner that we have, and I know I'll say the name wrong, but anyway, this is the person who shared it out most last week or comments and got our attention. And the winner who gets the Soul Spa meditation. And soon, when I got so many ideas for more meditations to come out, so I can't wait till we all get the time to get together and do this. But for now, it's the Egyptian, going back to ancient Egypt and
or the Avalon one.
Or the Avalon. Oh yeah, I forgot. Yeah, and then we got the Avalon one, and then we meet the Lady of the Lake and Merlin, and have quite an experience with that. And so these are great meditations. And so a meditation is coming, and the winner is Kathy Schlieben. You said Schlieben, right?
Yeah.
Lieben
I
Donnelly.
can murder French, I can murder Spanish, and I can murder German. That's okay.
But we mean it sincerely. Thank you for watching
it's
our
Lieben
show and
Donnelly.
being a part of us, and
Yeah.
we'll get that video to you, that meditation.
That's all.
Hope you love
Thank
it.
you, Kathryn, for joining us today, and we hope to see you soon. And namaste. Any parting words? May the dandelion be with you, or something like that, Kathryn?
That's good. That's good.
If it's a weed in your yard, it's probably useful for something. So
Yes,
check it out.
absolutely. Yes.
Yeah, if it's in your yard, check it out. Except for poison ivy, we all know that's not a good one. Okay, take care. Thank you, everyone. Bye bye.
Namaste.